Hey guys, I'm Hop. Thanks for tuning into TFBTV. Against all odds, I survived SHOT Show 2022 with only a minor case of the plague. Now I'm back in the woods where I belong. There's nobody to make eye contact with. It's going to get dark soon, so everything is all right with the world. Some of you guys may not know that I'm TFBTV's night vision nerd in residence, so while I was at SHOT Show, I kept my eyes open for interesting night vision related products. I'm going to give you guys my quick little spotter's guide to all the interesting night vision stuff that I saw at SHOT Show 2022. Stay tuned. Alright guys, I'm working off of a sticky note here because I don't have Luke to be my surrogate brain like I did at SHOT Show. So, pardon the reference to the notes. If you see me looking at my hand, it means I'm trying to remember what exactly I did during SHOT Show. Alright, first thing, Holosun LE series of lasers. A lot of guys probably are not even aware that Holosun makes a whole series of IR lasers and illuminators for use with night vision. They do. They have a whole complicated series. The numbers and the naming scheme, not all that difficult to figure out. Kind of like with their optics. You just have to learn all the rules and then all the exceptions to the rules, and it's pretty easy. So, they have the LS series, which are all made out of aluminum, have slightly reduced feature sets. They've got the LE series, which are made out of titanium, more advanced features. The 100 series are single laser emitter, either red, green, or IR. 200 series, paired emitters, one IR, one visible. 300 series adds an IR illuminator. 400 series adds a white light as well. Now, the exception to that rule is the one that I was most interested in, which is the LE321. That one is the Elite series, so it's titanium body, it has the advanced feature set, and it has a white light illuminator on it. I've used and reviewed a whole bunch of these Holosun lasers on my own channel. I've had the LS117, LE117, LS221, LS321. The Holosun laser units are all super well designed and really well made. They're significantly nicer to use, and it feels like they're much more durable than Steiner laser units. Steiner's got a whole bunch of quality control. I've had a whole bunch of issues with them. Well, actually, they're Beretta Defense Technologies now. Make sure you get that right. Anyway, Holosun laser units are a really nice choice for somebody who's just getting into night vision because they're more affordable than a Steiner. They're made a little better. They're very easy to use. The main limitation is that they're very limited in output power. So the LE321, like any civilian-based laser illuminator, is going to be fairly weak in output power. Going to be mostly just useful at close range. Ditto for the white light illuminators. They're not very potent. I think it's like 300-ish lumens, which is quite a bit less, I think, than even a regular single-cell Surefire Scout light. So, not mind-blowing performance by any stretch of the imagination. However, it's going to be a single, self-contained unit containing everything that you could possibly want to put on a gun to shoot at night. Really great option for like a PCC, shorty AR, any kind of PDW basically. That's what I really want to use it for. I know that the white light's not going to punch out very far. I know the illuminator is going to be very anemic, particularly compared to a full-power military unit or, you know, a more potent LED-based illuminator like the ZBolt Acal, all that sort of stuff. The LE series of IR lasers and illuminators is just like basically unavailable in this country so far. They've been around for a couple years in theory, but I think there's only like 6 copies of the LE321 even in this country. And I don't think anybody's got the LE420 yet. But they had one of each at the SHOT Show booth. They looked like hammered shit. I think they've been dragging them around from convention to convention for the last 2 years. Hopefully they'll be available soon. Still no ETA, but when they get here, I am absolutely stoked to get a 321, put it on one of my short guns. I also think the 420 is kind of interesting because it can mount a 20mm micro red dot to the top of it. That seems a little goofy if you think about a full-size AR and a laser module way out at the end, but think of something way smaller, you know, think of like a Scorpion or a TP9 or something like that. Super small PDW, and a all-in-one optic, laser, all that stuff mounted directly onto the gun. Seems kind of clever. Anyway, up next, the Psionics Opsin Digital Night Vision Monocular. Psionics makes a whole series of low-light action cameras like this, called the Aurora series. This is an Aurora Pro. I use this to do almost all of my night vision filming. Super easy to use, decent low-light performance. Unfortunately, when they came out, I think a lot of guys kind of got this idea in their head that they could use these as a helmet-worn monocular device, which is a really quite bad idea. So I made a couple videos about that subject, which I don't think Psionics really appreciated, but you know, they were true, so go watch them. So trying to wear a camera on your head is just really terrible for a whole bunch of reasons, but the Opsin is actually going to be a purpose-built night vision monocular, just that happens to use digital technology. So the way that they've redesigned it has a completely new body, new controls, all that stuff. I don't think it even records anymore because it's not a camera. It's basically just using a digital camera sensor with like a super high light sensitivity as the basis for a monocular device. Night vision monoculars already kind of have screens in them, so it's not that much of a leap to imagine that you could just use digital technology instead. So the housing for the Opsin is totally redesigned. It's very similar in controls and layout to just a standard PVS-14 monocular. You got focus at the front, you've got the eyepiece adjustable at the back. You even actually have a kind of like a fake manual gain knob, which actually adjusts the brightness on the fly. It also has buttons on it to adjust the frame rate on the fly. The reason that's important is that because it's a camera, the amount of light that you get in is directly proportional to the frame rate. You increase the frame rate, now it's taking more samples every second, and it's losing brightness essentially. On the flip side, however, if you have a low frame rate, then walking, driving, shooting all becomes much more difficult. So they've now got a button to switch between the frame rate modes on the fly, 30, 60, and also now 90. The cameras only went up to 60, so 90 is significantly smoother. And also, they say that they've reduced the latency between the sensor and the screen. The catch this time around is the price. The thing that got people excited about using the Aurora as a monocular in the first place was the price point. Even the top-end Pro model came in at just under $1,000, which made it really attractive compared to spending $2,000+ on a PVS-14. However, cost of the Opsin, they're ballparking it at $2,500, which is still pretty much the price of a really solid Generation 3 green phosphor PVS-14. You could probably even get one for cheaper than that if you shop around or hit the used market. It's really exciting to me just to see Psionics taking customer feedback seriously and really pushing the boundaries with what can be done without using an analog intensifier tube. Excuse me. Up next, the ZBolt Acal, the Advanced Co-Located Aiming Laser. I should have written down what that whole acronym was. ZBolt is an Oregon-based company, and their current thing is making LEP-based weapon lights. LEP is laser-excited phosphor, excuse me. This is what happens when I don't have Luke here to remind me things. So laser-excited phosphor, instead of using an LED to create light, it shines a laser onto a phosphor, and then that creates light in some way. I don't know. I got one of those liberal arts majors in college, so this is sort of above my pay scale. The important thing is that a lot of the top tier of weapon light manufacturers, so Modlight and Cloud Defensive, they have standard footprint weapon lights that are pushing 100,000 candela. And the ZBolt Blazer LEP lights in the same footprint with the same power plant are doing something like 455,000 candela. So it's an order of magnitude more powerful. Of course, there's other factors to consider when talking about weapon lights, but that's their thing. The Acal is a different sort of thing. It's another laser aiming module, multifunction aiming laser, whatever the acronym you want to use is. Advanced Co-Located Co-Witnessed Aiming Laser. Jesus Christ. The Acal has a focusable LED-based infrared illuminator, it has an infrared aiming laser, and a visible laser. So in feature set, it's very comparable to a ZBolt D2. However, there's a couple of cool things about the Acal. Number one, the lasers are not a pair of emitters that are slaved together. Somehow it's a single emitter that can emit both the IR and the green. So whereas before you would have two lasers very close together that were aimed with the same adjustment mechanism, now you have just one laser. So, reduce the spread even more, I guess. The other cool thing about the Acal is that it mounts the laser emitters directly in line over the bore, which makes zeroing way easier. You don't have to go for a converging or a parallel zero. You can just zero straight in line like you would your optic, makes your holds and holdovers significantly easier at range. And the illuminator, LED and focusable, means that it's got incredible power and range for a civilian legal device, very similar to a ZBolt D2. Crucially, this thing is going to weigh, I think, 4 ounces less than a D2. D2 weighs over 12 ounces. It is chunky. The Acal weighs, I believe, 8.5 ounces. So you're basically just lopping a third of the weight off of the D2. That's going to make it significantly more attractive, and it'll probably come in at a similar or maybe slightly higher price point. They're also working on one that's going to have a V-cell emitter, which is the same technology used in the B.E. Myers Mall. That one's going to have even more ludicrous power and range and will probably be even more expensive, similar to a B.E. Myers Mall. The reason that I get so freaking excited about this stuff is that the IR laser market for civilians is just terrible. Like, it's really not meant for us. We're not supposed to even be there. Most of what you get is devices that are designed for the military or law enforcement and then scaled back down to be civilian legal. So you get something that looks really cool, barely works. And on that subject, the next thing is the Phantom Hill TF2. Phantom Hill is another one of those new players in the night vision game. Their first thing, actually, I have it right here. Forgot I brought props for this. This is the TF1. This is an all-in-one laser aiming module that includes infrared illuminator, infrared laser, white light, and its own buttons right on the device. Again, cool idea to have an all-in-one device. This ends up being a little more compact and a little bit lighter than having an entire IR module and a separate white light, plus buying the switches that you need for it. It's also fairly affordable. When I tell you how much it costs, your reaction is probably going to be based on how much experience you have with night vision. These run for about 800 bucks. I know, seems pretty expensive, but what you're getting is a complete package. You don't have to buy a white light, a laser unit, and then switches. You can just buy the one thing and all of it's right there. Also has the advantage of being self-contained, which is really nice because you can just throw this thing on your gun and you're good to go. The only real downside of the CTF1 is fairly low performance because you've got a LED-based infrared illuminator that is not focusable and it's not all that powerful. Same thing for the white light. It's, I don't know, again, another 300-ish lumens light. Not amazingly potent. And Phantom Hill does not pretend that this thing is God's gift to laser devices. They're just offering a nice option on the market for somebody who is new to the game, wants one single device at an affordable price point, or somebody who's already fucking around with night vision and they want to set up a second gun and they don't want to drop another $2,000 on a whole setup again. The CTF2 is going to be even cooler because instead of having the emitters on the body of the device and then using little screw-on lens assemblies, it's basically just going to be a power delivery system for a pair of scout light heads. Just regular Surefire compatible scout light heads. So you could, for example, get a pair of Malkoff heads. You could do a Hyperthrow head and one of their IR heads. And you could switch them around as well because instead of having a visible button and an IR button, it's going to have a left button and a right button. It's also going to have a laser-only button in the middle that allows you to just turn on the laser. That's something you can't do with the CTF1 unless you're in zeroing mode. So the CTF2, just an all-around generational improvement based on feedback that Phantom Hill got from the CTF1. Last thing on the list, the AB Night Vision Panoramic RNVG goggles. Let's talk about field of view. If you have a night vision monocular, you get a very narrow field of view, 40 degrees in one eyeball. If you scale that up to dual tubes, like in a binocular system, you end up with 40 degrees in each eyeball. And if you do the math and put them both together, you end up with still 40 degrees. I'm not sure how that works, but it does. Basically, your field of view, even with binocular night vision, is very limited, just like it is with a monocular. You don't get a lot of situational awareness, which can be a problem if you're moving around in close quarters. The longer range, not really a big deal. Monoculars, binoculars, whatever, you can still drive, shoot, and run around with them. It's just that when you start to get up close, the field of view really becomes a problem. That's how field of view works. I think you probably already knew that just from walking around with your human eyeballs all the time. Binocular night vision still gives you the advantage of having depth perception. It's just a much more natural way to look at the world. There's less eye strain, allows you to do things like passive shooting a little bit more easily. If you really want the next level of performance, you got to scale up to panoramic night vision. That's where you get stuff like the GPNVGs, which are, you know, $40,000 a set or something, which is kind of expensive. Also, the weight becomes a real problem. There is a somewhat cheaper alternative, which is to mount a pair of PVS-14s to a Noise Fighter's panel bridge, which allows you to articulate the tubes in and out to either gain field of view or return back to a normal binocular night vision setup. And somewhere in that whole range of traverse, there is a setting that's pretty much usable and gives you a nice intermediate level of field of view. That still has a problem of weight, however. I think one of those entire setups is going to be close to 2 entire pounds hanging off the front of your face, whereas a set of RNVGs, ruggedized night vision goggles, weighs, I think, 17 ounces, so significantly lighter weight. That's a huge deal because if you're going to wear them for any length of time, you're going to break your freaking neck or just be miserable all night long. The RNVGs, the ruggedized night vision goggles, are a very durable and lightweight set of binocular night vision. The main limitation of those, the trade-off that you get for that durability, is that the two eyepieces do not articulate like they do on a lot of binocular systems. So you can't cant them up out of the way. You can't fold them flat against your helmet. It could be a problem if you're, a large person trying to get into a small truck. So the Pano RNVGs are just a set of RNVGs with a panoramic articulation system built in to give you more field of view. Pretty self-explanatory. They're going to still probably be significantly lighter than a lot of other dual tube sets. Definitely lighter than using two PVS-14s on a Pano bridge, and probably still fairly affordable since RNVGs are on the affordable side of night vision goggle housings. Panoramic night vision, or anything that increases field of view, is like 50% of the future of night vision right now, the other half being like thermal fusion, which is a whole different conversation and a whole different income bracket. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you have any questions about SHOT Show stuff or night vision stuff, go ahead and ask. That was definitely not everything that I saw at SHOT Show 2022, but it was the stuff that sort of jumped out at me. So, as always, TFBTV is supported by our sponsors, Ventura Munitions and Top Gun Supply, and also supported by people like you via Subscribestar and Patreon. So if you are one of our patrons or Subscribestar patrons, whatever their fancy special word for it is, you're eligible for all sorts of giveaway things that James puts together. That's his department, not mine. You'll have to go click on those links and read about it to understand how it works. See you next time.